For vlogging day 1099, the lifeguards have asked me to keep my shirt on because they'd be so embarrassed about how ripped I am that's why I'm wearing a shirt at the beach.
Good morning. It's Saturday, which is actually, one of the benefits to having a summer birthday is that this has nothing to do with a summer birthday. It just happens to do with the date that I was born on. For whatever reason, every year, my birthday does land on or around a weekend, which works out pretty well. The reason that I tied the summer birthday part into that was because growing up as a kid, summer birthday, kind of rough because nobody was around for a lot of your birthdays. But the nice thing was that it was always on a weekend. I don't know. That's a really weird tie-in. Good morning. How you doing? I'm just hanging out at home today. For the most part, I'm gonna go join some friends on the river, I think, for a drink. The weather is getting really indecisive right now. Can't tell if it's gonna rain or not. I don't think it knows if it's gonna rain or not. So we might end up on the river for a drink. We might not. I actually bought some gin. Happy birthday gin for me. And I'm gonna share with them, of course, along with some limes and some little cups and stuff, because you know what? I can't drink beer for the next 3 months, except on my cheat days. Didn't mean to get into that either. I'm just taking this off the rails. What I thought I would talk about today, a little bit, at least, just a little bit, is the madness that is having pretty much filmed 10% of my life. Think about it. That feels really high. Think about it. I'm turning 34 today. Technically, I turned 34 on the 21st in France, but time zones and dates, whatever, it's written down, the 20th in America. I started filming my life and publishing it online every day about 3 years and a month and a half ago, something like that. If you take out the 6-week break that I took between seasons 1 and season 2, that's about 3 years on the nose today. Well, let's just say 3 years on the nose today. That's kind of nuts. I hadn't even thought about this as a statistic until today. I literally just walked outside. It's like 34 seems like a weird number. It doesn't feel like it feels like an in-between year. You have like 30 is pretty monumental in and of itself, and I loved turning 30. A lot of great things changed in my mentality, including the ability magically to, go on a successful diet, which I had wanted to do for most of my adult life, which is a whole nother story that we can get into again some other time. But I really started to accept myself in ways that I never had before. I feel like there were elements of self-doubt that began to really settle down. I still had a long, dark road ahead of me, if you know the story of my life at all. But I still really enjoyed turning 30 and felt like there were some good changes coming. 35 feels like another one. Every 5 years feels like a solid, like a real landmark that you're crossing. 33 is just fun to say. 31 is like officially moving into your 30s. But like 32, 34, for whatever reason, to me, those feel just kind of like, what do they even mean? So of course, because I can't even figure out like what are you supposed to do? Am I supposed to get like a paper gift on my 34? Like, what is this? I guess I just was thinking in terms of like, well, I've been vlogging for 3 years, and holy smokes, it's getting really close to 10% of my life. Like, not there, it's probably closer to like 9%, but give it another, I don't know, if I'd keep doing this for 3 or 4 more months, I'd be getting close to that. That's kind of crazy to have a significant percentage of your life on film, documented. What a gift to give to myself. That's how we can all tie it back into the birthday thing. But here's some stuff that I've been thinking about and some things that I've learned and things that I'm grateful for, because I'm always grateful. And I want to make sure that I remain grateful, if nothing else. I'm so grateful that, for one, I get to live to be 34. There have been periods of human history where this would have been an anomaly, so I'm really grateful that I made it this far, just to begin with. I'm also really grateful that I have the opportunities that I do. The fact that, when I was turning 30, I talked about going on a diet and being successful, and how there were a lot of really good benefits to that. Like, the health effects were huge. Definitely helped in a number of arenas, including like, I had some indigestion that went away, just random stuff like that. It made me feel more confident in myself. It improved my dating life, notably. Not that it's ever been good. I'm not gonna go out there and say my dating life has ever been good, but my prospects got a little bit better. And then being 31 and starting to vlog, I guess it was 31 when I started vlogging. Was I 30 or 31? I must have been 31, and then turned 32 immediately after. I was in a really, really bad spot. I was in a dark place, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, geographically, just not where I wanted to be at all. Career-wise, what career? Moving on my aspirations and dreams. I was moving. Was I getting any closer to anything? Didn't know. And jumping into vlogging, I did it about a month before I turned 32, was very much a last-ditch effort for me to save myself from, imploding. Because I was under a lot of pressure. A lot of it was self-imposed, but there's a societal side of that too, like being 30 plus and single and having no discernible career, a whole bunch of skills that don't seem to really be usable or profitable in any way, a CV that looks more like the after than before of a Jenga game. Like there's a lot of stuff that was going wrong in my life from an outside perspective, I would imagine. But from an inside perspective, the things that were going wrong weren't really those things. I never really wanted a house. I wasn't looking to start a family anytime soon. And the career goals that I had for myself, I always knew, and I've always known, and I still know, are outsized and they're just monstrous. And the odds of being able to succeed at the things I want to succeed in life aren't good. Like, just from a purely statistical standpoint, the probability is low. But that doesn't mean it's not worth trying. Let me say that again, it doesn't mean it's not worth trying. If you've got really big dreams, try. Like that's the only thing you can do. And some of us have better opportunities than others. Some of us are born into better situations or are given better opportunities than others. I was born into a better situation than many people. Even if it was hard where I was at, I was still very fortunate for all the different privileges that I did have. And I'm still very grateful for those today. But vlogging every day, right before I turned 32, had a massive impact on my life. It changed it in a really big way because it became my lifestyle. So my lifestyle at the beginning of my 30s has been defined by making these videos every day. There are a lot of other things that have obviously had defining impacts. Successfully getting my visa and somehow managing to afford to move to France when I had no money. I was super in the red. Struggling to survive here for as long as I did, meeting great friends, like making friends with Prashant was a total random chance. And there are a number of other friends that I've made along the way, whether it was, through Bike About Tours and the Peloton or through working with CNRS or all the other random stuff that I've been able to do while I've been here. Lots of great people have come into my life, lots of great opportunities, and it's been a lot of struggle, but it's been heading in the right direction. And what's kind of crazy is that this is something that Jeff reminds me of all the time. If you don't know who Jeff is, you can go back to like one of the road trips we took on the West Coast, or anytime I've ended up in California, Jeff's probably in my vlog. And many of you have heard this story in one form or another. But when I started vlogging every day, what I was most excited for was that I had these opportunities on the table right in front of me. I really thought, either I'm gonna get this book deal that I've been talking about for a long time with a publisher, and I think it's gonna happen, or the Kickstarter that I'm doing for Into the Nantin, round 3 is gonna go phenomenally well, and that's gonna get me on some more radars, or Boomerang's gonna take off, and the tech company that I'm struggling to found with some friends is also gonna be successful. I really thought that it was gonna go somewhere. One of those things had to go somewhere. I had to go somewhere. One of these was my ticket out of the very deep hole that I had dug for myself. And of course, that's not what happened. My thought was that this is the perfect time to start vlogging because my life is about to change forever. In one way or another, it's gonna go crazy, and I wanna make sure I capture that on video. That was one of the motivations that I had. It's not a central motivation, but it was definitely one of those things where I was like, yeah, this is the time to do it, to capture this life-changing story. And of course, that's not what happened at all. All those things failed. Book deal fell through, Kickstarter failed. The Kickstarter for Boomerang also failed, didn't go anywhere. We kind of just lost our way as a team. And I had nothing left. I had no big projects I was pouring myself into, and I'm a big project person. I love pouring myself into creating things. And if it hadn't been for the vlog, I wouldn't have had much of a creative lifeline. I'm really grateful that I had it. Not only that I could share my story with the outside world, but also because it became a very reflective process. It was very much a mirror to myself. And one of the things that's interesting to think about in terms of how when I started to where I'm at now, when I started, for those of you that are fans of the garage monologues from Spokane at my parents' house, a garage monologue wasn't always the first take. A garage monologue was often the third or fourth or fifth take, because what would happen would be I would set the camera up on top of a car and then I would talk to it, and after about 5 minutes I'd be like, holy cow, that is not how I want to see my situation. I would let whatever was there out. And a lot of times it was despair and negativity. It was a really hard time seeing the silver lining on any cloud. And I wouldn't go so far as to say like it was like doom and gloom, but I would recognize just how hurt I was or how much I was struggling. And I would take a step back and I would try to think about it and reconcile how I felt with what I wanted to do with that feeling. I wouldn't change that. There was no way of changing the feeling, and I never wanted to be dishonest with what was going on in that moment. But what I did want to do for my own health, and especially because nobody was watching anyways, but for my own personal health, I wanted to take how I was feeling out of the boat that it was currently in, which was sinking, and put it into a boat that was headed in the direction that I wanted to go. Even if I didn't really feel like I was going that way, even if I didn't really feel like things were ever going to get better, even if I didn't think that there was any way, come hell or high water, that I was going to survive where I was at, the least I could do would be to try to change my mentality and to try to save myself from actually despairing. And so that was one of those defining elements of the garage monologues, was it was therapy. And I would stand in there for a half an hour just trying to say something that was both honest to how I felt and what was going on in my life, but also helped to remind me of where I wanted to go and where I wanted to take it. Fast forward to today, I don't do any second takes. Like, it's always first take. Part of that's learning to trust myself and trust that I get it right a lot of the time. It's not always the best I could perform and practice, but this is a vlog. It's meant to capture who I am as I am authentically, not who I want to be or how I want to present myself. But again, it is really important to keep in mind the future and where it is you want to go, and take what you have in front of you, and not let your circumstances or those negative or hard feelings define who you are and where you're going, but instead you define how you're going to handle them. I don't know if that makes any sense, but that's really how I tried to deal with it and have learned to deal with those circumstances. The other thing is, and probably the biggest lesson that I've learned through all of this, is to do my best to be as vulnerable as I can be. If I'm struggling to share something, often it's the thing that I definitely need to share. Like when I went bankrupt, something I still kind of struggle to talk about sometimes, but I really am grateful that I did it, and I'm glad to share that experience with you, because I think there are a lot of people out there that just need to know it's a possibility for them, if nothing else. Just started raining. Here it comes. And this is actually just from a storytelling standpoint. Not only is it really important just to be vulnerable and to share ourselves with the people around us, and ideally we can do that with people that are actually physically around us. So it's not just me talking to a camera and learning to be vulnerable in a room with a camera, but that lesson actually extends itself to the relationships that I have around me. In the same way, it's a storytelling lesson, because I was robbing you of the best possible story, in that when I had the book deal and the Kickstarter and Boomerang, blah, 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 I didn't really talk about how much that meant to me, both how important it was to me practically and financially, and also how important it was to me emotionally, and how much I'd put into those things, how much work, how much of my soul, had gone into creating these books and products, because I was scared. I was scared that if I failed, I would fail in public. You would know just how badly I failed, and you would think less of me. And so I didn't want to share how important it was to me. I wanted to keep it at arm's length, thereby somehow distancing myself from my failures and making it, I don't even know what I was thinking, because at the end of the day, that fear robbed anyone who was watching, all 20 of you, from really knowing and understanding just how heavy those hits were for me, and how much they pushed me down, and how deep they drove me under the ground. And I reflected on that as I moved into my second season, as I decided to start pumping my Patreon more actively, as I decided to let go of my pride and say, you know what, I value what I make. If you value what I make as well, here's how you can be a part of it. Those kinds of things were really hard to do. The hardest thing was just burying myself in the way that allowed people to see into my life and to see if I was succeeding or failing, if I was hitting my goals or not, if I was doing the things I wanted. I tried to lose weight last year and made it about 10 pounds before flopping. We're gonna see how far I make it this time. I'm going to make it all the way down, gosh darn it. But I gave people a real chance to see me, and that changed everything, both in the quality of the storytelling, but also just in the value of doing this. For me, it was already something that was really, really valuable, and something that had been a lifeline for a year. But what made it possible to keep going was definitely the process of learning and growing in being open and vulnerable. And that was wildly, wildly important. So today, as I turned 34 and I tried to rest a little bit, I went for a run this morning. I cleaned my apartment. There's a bunch of laundry sitting here, drying. I would like you to think back on the last 3 years, on the dreams, the hopes, the plans that you've had. Maybe you've made some for momentum, maybe you haven't. Maybe you don't know yet. I spent a lot of energy in what felt like spinning, and I'm starting to see how some of those spin moves have actually moved me in directions that maybe I wouldn't have foreseen being helpful, but are definitely going to be helpful in the long term. And then thinking about where you could be in the next 3 years, and what a huge difference could be made if you just change your positioning on one or two things. For me, a lot of that really came down to vulnerability, the willing to be vulnerable with myself and with my viewership and with my friends around me. But vulnerability was a really huge thing for me. To really present myself as I am, to find the people that wanted to be around me for who I am, and to go ahead and kind of shirk some of the people that weren't into who I was. I'm not saying that will be the thing for you. There could be a million different things, but I've talked for a long time, so maybe I've already kind of ruined the idea that just formulated in my head. But what I'd like you to do is as soon as this video is over, YouTube wants me to tell you to go watch another video because that's all they care about. And so this might hurt me in some way by not forwarding you onto another video because it always, if you stay on my videos a long time, YouTube thinks my videos are great. And if you leave YouTube because of one of my videos, you know how algorithms work. But for my birthday, rather than give me anything or even say anything in the comments below, what I would like to ask you to do, what I'd like to challenge you to do is to take the next 10 minutes, let's just call it 10 minutes. Close your web browser, turn off your TV, turn off your cell phone, whatever it is that you're watching this on, and just spend the next 10 minutes reflecting on the last 3 years, where you had hoped you would be at the end of those 3 years if you've been thinking that far ahead. And what's the one thing that you could do today that you think would point you at least in a slightly better direction? How can you take where you've been, what you're struggling with right now, out of a boat that's sinking and put it into a boat that's headed in a direction that you want to go? It doesn't have to actually reflect how you're feeling or where you're at right now, but mentally, how can you adjust your course just a little bit to get just a little bit closer to where you want to be in the next 2 to 3 years? What's that one little step you could do? And then write that down somewhere where you'll keep it, maybe come back to it later, maybe make adjustments. But at least taking the time to reflect, write that change out, and hide it away somewhere, I think can make a difference. It's a weird place for a birthday vlog to go, I know. I have no idea what I was gonna do when I sat down to do this, but that's kind of where my thought process is at right now, and I thought I would share it with you. I hope you've enjoyed this little sit down on the couch video today. I'm gonna slap it together, rest a little bit longer, maybe play on my Nintendo Switch a little bit. I'm in the second disc of Final Fantasy VII finally. I've been trying to play it for months, and I finally sat down to play a little bit in the last week, so that's great. And I hope that you're having a wonderful day wherever it is you are, and that if it's raining, you didn't have outdoor plans like we did today. And that's about it. Thank you for watching. Thank you for being here for however long it's been that you've been watching my channel. And yeah, just turn off YouTube for a little bit. Turn off YouTube and turn on the thinking parts. I don't know. I'll see you tomorrow.